Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Jeremy Safran. Wall Street is starting the week with a full-blown party. Now, the S&P 500 has surged past 6,600 for the first time, hitting another all-time high. And the reason here, a rock-solid conviction that the Federal Reserve is about to cut interest rates this Wednesday. Now, the CME FedWatch tool, which is how traders bet on these things, is showing a 96% probability of a quarter-point cut for the market. Well, this seems like a done deal, but then there's the optimism is running headfirst into some ugly numbers out of the real economy. A fresh report from the New York Fed shows regional manufacturing activity just fell off of a cliff. The headline index plunged minus 8.7, wildly missing expectations of a positive 5. And the details are even worse. The new orders index crashed by 35 points, and the shipments index fell 30 points, both hitting their lowest levels since April of 2024. Now, it is a profound disconnect, and our guest today has built his career on analyzing this type of data, arguing that they reveal a system that is not what it seems. Joining us now, of course, one of our friends, E.B. Tucker, editor of the Tucker Letter. Good to see you, E.B.
Thanks for having me.
Listen, we got a lot to get into today. I was just reading your latest note on your Substack, and I mean, you've said that this classic capitalism is folklore now, replacing kind of by a managed economy where markets grind higher, then have a sheer panic, and then they resume the upward march. I mean, looking at the S&P 500, it's at 6,600 today alongside that manufacturing report. Is this the perfect example of your thesis in action? I mean, is this just the grind up phase before the next elevator shaft down?
Well, the nice thing about my job is I get to read lots of hostile feedback after I recommend a stock that goes up 300%. And usually the feedback tells you all that you need to know. You know, people say something like, has this ship sailed or something? And you think, what is this person even talking about? I mean, real business here that makes plenty of money that we bought 300% ago, it's like people need this rocket fuel. And so it caused me to come up with this thing called the price of hope. And what the price of hope is this whole idea that the thought of something big like flying cars or, space communication for your cell phone or any of these things, the price of this before it happens is massive nowadays. And then the price of something after it happens is pretty low. And so everybody talks about like this Warren Buffett approach to investing, but people have about maximum 4 days to generate life-changing returns, or else they're really upset. And I think to me it's interesting because in my career, like I've done fine, and like in the newsletter, we're just doing great, and people just seem very hostile because they want like 7-digit ticker symbols that have 2 cents and they have life-changing returns, and it's like I don't understand. I mean, I don't see how. Maybe it's they didn't go to finance school or something, but like if you grow faster than the index, I mean, you grow over time so much that you can't spend the money. I mean, it's just crazy to me. So we live in this world where people, what they say and what they do are different. So they say one thing, and then what they do is they hopelessly gamble. Let me just one more quick thing about what's happening right now. The gold price is up like 40% this year or something. I haven't checked today, but it's over 40% year to date. And I just think a lot of people haven't played that. I mean, it's up like maybe 3 times, since kind of the 2020 era when I wrote a book about the subject. And I wonder what's wrong with me, because I sort of bought a little bit of metal all the time. I mean, I just sort of like slowly bought metal for like 20 plus years, and I just listen to what people say, and it's like they seem like angry or something. They need like some sort of like huge way to make some life-changing return. And I'm like, I wrote a whole book about this. It's so easy. Like the system is set up to keep expanding and have these occasional panics where people like tumble off down an elevator shaft, and then like you better get up fast because the whole thing runs back to I don't understand how you don't see this. And then they say, well, that's easy for you to say, you're rich. I guess. I mean, like, you don't really know how rich I am. I mean, what is even rich to begin with? Like it's such a relative thing. I mean, I think it's a state of mind is what it is. I mean, I have enough sort of stuff going on to do whatever I want. And like, whatever I want is unique to me. I mean, it might not be enough money for someone else. I don't know. It might be too much for other people. I have no idea. But to me, when I look at this, capitalism is totally finished. I mean, the Tucker kids, who we talk about a lot in the newsletter, we talk about them as like this class of creatures. The Tucker kids will not be allowed to operate a lemonade stand ever, because the whole premise of buying ingredients and making sure you sell them for enough to make a profit is so antiquated that it's almost like teaching them how to operate a horse and buggy. I would never do that. I would never teach them to operate a horse and buggy, because it's not a skill set that's useful in the modern age. And I will also not teach them about the basics of capitalism, because it's something that we all, for some unknown reason, we talk about this, and it has nothing to do with making money. What you have to do now to make money is you have to watch where the money goes. And what happens is the money just floods over here, and then it rushes over here. And then eventually over here becomes this like actual business that's not that exciting, and it trades at like a low multiple or something. But the idea over here, when it gets hot and everybody starts talking about it, I mean, this is worth like 100 times, projected metrics. It's crazy, maybe more. Yeah. I mean, it's worth any amount that you can dream up. It's worth that. You say like, power beamed down from the galaxy, some other galaxy. Oh, that's worth what? I mean, like 1 million times some metric or something. That's the price of hope. And so I just think people, they don't understand this. It's like when you get into a bit, like we have a business in the newsletter that generates like 25%, EBITDA margins, doing something that like even like a teenager couldn't screw up. And nobody wants to buy that stock. And I'm like, okay, well, just buy that stock. Well, no, it's not exciting enough. Okay, well, what is it that you want? I mean, you say you want this old lemonade stand idea. Well, I mean, I'm happy to own that. I'm happy, like my portfolio, I tell people in the newsletter what I'm up to. That's the whole thing. I mean, it's like, I'm managing a portfolio for a trust, but it's like, this is how I think, right? I'm happy to own a stock that makes 25% EBITDA margins, but it's not a 300% a year stock. That's a stock with no revenue. You have a company with no revenue that can generate like multi-100% returns. That's the price of hope. And people just seem like they're unwilling to do that. But we should probably get into, I've got like a...
Well, I don't know, EB. Are you going to let me get into this, buddy? You're going to... No, just kidding.
Whatever you want.
Tell me about the bullion behind you. I know it was heavy.
I mean, look. I mean, you can curl these things. I mean, this is, it's just like a serious amount of... This is 2,000 ounces of silver. Now, the silver price is 42.5. I mean, it's probably going to go right up to 50 here momentarily. And what I can't figure out is what people like about silver. And I just sort of slowly bought some silver because I number one, I thought silver was kind of cool. I mean, I went to some silver mines. I learned a lot about silver. I learned about antibacterial properties of silver. I'm just sort of a little bit into that kind of stuff. And so I slowly bought some silver. I got a lot of silver. So now silver's like over $40. I got to go find all the silver. I can't find it all. So, and I've tried to find it all, and I look forward to selling it at some point, not right away, but I do think that it's going to go up over 50, and then people might start paying attention at that point. Yeah. But silver is lagging way behind, and the silver people talk about it in this way that I don't understand. It's kind of like, when someone's getting like really excited in a different language or something. I don't know what they like about it, because we're in this market where you have things like vault higher in price. And I'm like, here to $50 is like 20%. I mean, here to $100, it's like barely more than a double. And like, you can't even find all the stuff. I mean, it's like, I've got so many backyards to go dig around in. I don't know where all this stuff is, but it is fun to go out and find your stash, because, I've been buying this stuff for ages. I mean, I just bought it because I think it was cool. That's what people don't understand. Most of the time, you buy something because it's going to go up, it goes down. You buy something because you think it's super interesting, and it goes up, and yeah. I just think that, to me, I'm at a place in life where I'm like, everybody, I'm just watching what you say and what you do, and then I'm making decisions based on what I see. And it seems to me like really easy to make money.
Well, listen. You got into quite a bit there, and I'm not quite sure. I'm going to bring it back to this price of hope, because I think it makes for a good book. I mean, you called 2025 a year of speculative excess, coming, kind of coining that term price of hope ratio for companies with no sales but tons of hope, as you just mentioned. But specifically, let's get into, how an investor navigates a market where narratives are being valued more than these highly established, profitable business. I mean, get into some picks. Who are you looking at right now? Who are the boring ones?
All right, let's do what you were saying about how does the average person put this information? Because the average person says this guy needs a haircut and he looks like a good tennis player, but like I don't understand what he's talking about. All right, if you're the average person, you're probably doing a job that you don't like for money that you're afraid to spend. You got to get rock bottom honest with yourself about what you're trying to do with the market, and then you need to see the system for what it is. You're going to have the chance to make money on these hope stocks. And then the world is changing right in front of your very eyes. I mean, one of the things I think people really struggle with is we're just charging headfirst into this digitally controlled system. And it's a great idea to see that for what it is and make a little money along the way. You're trying to have a balanced approach to walking into serfdom. I'm not sure that there's any way around it, to be honest with you, because I had a friend named Mark once that had his children born without a social security number, and so they can't get a driver's license, they can't fly on a plane, they can't go to a hospital. I mean, it's like, it doesn't really make much sense. So I think you need to see the system evolving for what it is. Now, why is that important? You might be freaked out when you hear that, but you should not be freaked out. I mean, people in the early part of the 20th century, when they saw the radio, they were freaked out. And the reality is the world kept spinning after the radio, there was messages broadcast into your living room. Now, if you were like a real Luddite, that would have properly freaked you out. But we're walking into this system where there's going to be increasing control. And right now you have a chance to play these hope things that are going on. And you should do that while understanding that you're pretty doomed. Well, what does that mean? All right, well, you look at all this metal here. I mean, gold has done even better, right? I mean, like at some point I just switched to buying only gold because you would need like an armored warehouse to keep all the silver in. But these are things that are going to run, and then at some point they're going to be untradeable. And the gold prices, call it like 25 trillion right now. That's if you take all the gold in the world and you put a price on it. That might go higher. And what you're going to see later is the reason it's going higher is because people are starting to move into it to protect themselves. Protect themselves from what? Well, it's pretty obvious that you're going to have a Fedcoin. I wrote the term Fedcoin in 2000, I think 15 or something. It was way too early. Okay, that's the other problem with writing books and reports. It's a huge mistake because people, it's nonfiction writing. You should really write fiction if you want to be a writer. It's much easier to hide behind that. But I put the term Fedcoin out because there'll be a closed loop blockchain. And what's going to happen is there'll be no counterfeiting, there'll be no tax evasion, and there'll be nowhere to hide if you run afoul of the monetary regime. And what's that going to do to gold? Well, I don't know, but I'll tell you what I think it's going to do to gold is going to drive the price really, really high. And gold's going to be one of these things that has a lot of value and it's really hard to sell. And people say, well, how is that even possible? Let's do a hypothetical scenario here. What if we saw a gold price much higher, like 5,000, eventually 10,000? You might end up in a scenario where if you try to sell that gold, there's this massive excise tax, meaning the gold is sort of like outside of this blockchain system that we're in. Now, to be really clear, blockchain doesn't mean Bitcoin. Blockchain means that the Fed or some new version of the Fed would because you're going to expose the Fed for what it is and have a new, much worse Fed someday. And this would be like a closed loop blockchain. So what's interesting about Bitcoin is you have this like distributed ledger. So you would just have like one ledger, with Fedcoin, and it would be like centrally controlled Watson computer that would monitor every single serial number on every single Fedcoin as it moved around. It'd be infinitely controllable. And then if you tried to sell the gold, you would be bringing it back into the Fedcoin system, which would expose you to whatever tax rate you want. I mean, there might be like this, okay, you could sell the gold for this period at a fixed price, bring it back into the system. Does this sound familiar? Do you remember when this happened in the 1930s? There's some eerie similarities, like a sort of like a modern day computerized FDR scenario. Okay. Yeah. And so I think when people start seeing this, they start seeing, wow, I mean, this is possible. Now, here's what blows my mind is that then they say, how can I profit from this? And I'm thinking, these capitalists, man, Lenin had it right. These capitalists will be like, they're going to hang me. Is there a way I can make some money off the rope? Do you get what I'm saying? It's like, First step is you just need to see things for you just need to see the bigger picture. I mean, you don't have to go profiting from every sort of thing that's going to happen. But I hope that's not too much of a narrative for you, because when people read my letter, I'm saying, why don't you just read the newsletter, because it's really well written and it's written by me and it's a lot of fun to read and you might learn something. Can you read something?
You are a writer.
Because you might learn something. Can you read a
man.
story can you just read a good story, or do you need a secret code like a Cracker Jacks box every time you eat something? Can you just eat something and enjoy yourself? I don't think people can.
Listen, let me bring it back to what you were saying, because I only got about 15 minutes left with you, EB, but I do want to get to a couple of things. First, the Fed, what we haven't really got into, but let's go back to what you talked about. I mean, you warned for years that a modern gold kind of confiscation wouldn't be a physical raid, but it would come as a form of a kind of prohibitive excise tax, selling it, say 90%. I mean, how close are we to that reality? I mean, what would the political trigger for the government to make such a big move?
I think it's not preordained. I think the issue would happen as a reaction to people trying to avoid cooperating with Fedcoin. That's what would trigger it. So it's not like they say, on this date, we're going to have this excise tax. I think if people begin hiding, trying to preserve and hide and operate outside of the Fedcoin regime, then that's when you would say, okay, we have a window of opportunity for you to get legal with your gold. And if you don't get legal with your gold, you're going to be subject to like a 90% excise tax. And also like all these, different ways that you can be punished because you're naughty school children, with having your gold. We told you that's only for governments. It's only for, foreign governments, not you. Okay. So that's the type of messaging. Just see the messaging. Like I remember as a kid, when we learned about algebra, I was like, what's the point of algebra? And, my father is really smart. He was like, you got to learn how the equation works. And then you're going to see that lots of parts of life are the same equation. You'll be able to solve things in life. I didn't really know what that meant, but it turns out, he was right. So like you see that you kind of see this process. Like what's the equation of FDR? It's easy when you go back and look, because everybody, that was around then as an adult is dead now. Maybe there's some people that are old that were kids then, but see the equation and forget about the emotion. And then you look at the modern scenario, the digital version of that, and you say, wow, okay, I see how people hiding in gold would make it harder for Fedcoin to take effect and be a control mechanism. It's going to control your whole life, okay? So everybody in the US is obsessed with money. And they're obsessed with money, and they hoard money. If you notice, people, they don't have enough money. Even people that have a lot of money, they don't quite have enough. Like the Morgan Stanley guy that I use is like, you should not stop working. Because the Tucker letter is like something I do because I love it, right? So that guy says you should be working more. Why should I be working? Well, you could have more money. Well, what would I do with more money? Eventually I'd do something I enjoy. It doesn't make any sense. People's thinking is broken. And so you have a society that's totally obsessed with profit. I'm not going to say it's greedy, because I don't think greed is bad. I also don't think money is bad. It's just that people are out of balance and they do something compulsively. And so when you back up a little bit and you see that this is where things are headed, then your job becomes different. Your job becomes to live now, to keep playing the game, but to know that it's a game and to see where it's going and to not be afraid of that, because there's no stopping where it's going. And the world definitely keeps going, and you can survive and thrive through change. 1935 is not when the world stopped. It got infinitely more exciting, and it's going to get more exciting from here. You got to go along with it. You got to flow with it, but you can have more fun when you see what's going on.
So you're describing kind of, gold is the ultimate way to operate outside of this future Fedcoin, as you call it, or this digital regime. But in a world of, 24/7 digital surveillance, where every financial institution is a reporting agency, basically, I mean, how does one actually use that physical gold to live without creating a massive trail? I mean, the moment you convert it back to digital currency to buy a car or a house, aren't you right back on their radar?
I would never encourage anyone to run afoul of the United States, authorities, just to be clear. I think that when you see what is likely to happen, then you can make choices accordingly. For example, in the 1930s, there were ways to lawfully, operate through that. I mean, there were certain classes of exemptions. Now, if you just kind of like read the paper that it was essential that you turn your gold in, which is what, unfortunately,
Most
my
did.
great grandmother did. And I had a hard time understanding that until my grandfather told me, yeah, well, they were running the newspaper like 7 days a week, that like the country was, like teetering on the edge or whatever. So it's very difficult for a lot of people to process that. Readers of the Tucker letter might fare better than the average. But anyway, you just went into the bank and turned all that stuff in. And then later you discovered that like if some of those coins were like, 18th century French collectibles or something, like they might have had an exemption, whatever. I'm just saying, you don't look at this as a scenario where you're going to become some sort of underground lawless bandit. I mean, I don't think that that's really a lifestyle that most people, considering their size and shape and cognitive abilities, I don't think you're going to make it as a lawless bandit. Maybe, but I don't think you will. I think it's much smarter to see change for what it is and to flow with it. That's just me. I'm not afraid of any sort of change because I'm not clinging on to the past. And part of that is because I feel like I accurately see things for what they are and don't live under a cloud of delusion. Most of my compatriots, I think, do live under a cloud of delusion, and they survive off of fear and hope and panic and all these emotions. And that's why they're all anxious. That's why they have a hard time doing anything, or gnawing their fingers and tapping their legs, and they look panicked all the time, and they just need a little more money and their life would be better. I don't think any of that stuff. I don't think any of that stuff. I'm going to do things I enjoy just for the sake of enjoying them. And when it comes to money decisions, I'm trying to flow down the river of life, making decisions that are going along that flow. And readers of the Tucker letter know this. So, I mean, I don't think bunkering yourself is necessarily that wise of an idea. I mean, it's sort of like the whole prepping thing. You're locked in a bunker eating 5-gallon pails of dehydrated food for 20 years. Does not sound like a party. So when you think about this stuff, I think it's important to consider the setup and what's likely to happen, and then figure out how you want to deal with it. That's what I would do.
Bring it back to the political endgame a little bit and talk to me about the Fed. Obviously, we have this upcoming meeting. We're going to hear about these rates this week, but go deeper into the mechanics of that system, because the Federal Reserve has 7 governors, right? Meaning a president needs 4 appointees to control policy. Are the intense pressure campaigns, like you wrote about in your latest letter against governors like Lisa Cook, part of a calculated strategy to create vacancies and consolidate control over the money supply? Is this the new playbook? What are your thoughts?
All right. Just remember, when you started this Fed, it was sort of this different era. And now banks really aren't the thing. Okay, if you think about it, what do you do with stable coins? The stable coins fall into this category that the Fed originally was designed to monitor. And it's no longer banks. I mean, like, if you've been to the bank recently, it's like more frustrating than going down to the county and trying to, like, turn your water on or something. I mean, it's very, very difficult. And what you're seeing is that the banks are total dinosaurs, and they're not really the most essential part of the new system. And so that's why I think the Fed, which is effectively owned by the primary dealer banks, is doomed. Now, meantime, what the government is doing, what the elected executive branch is doing, is actually pretty sensible, because you do have the right to appoint these people. And if you're not happy with these people, you should agitate. This happens all the time, right? In different parts of government. It's front page news now, but it really shouldn't be, because the government realizes that, and Bernanke put this in print, by the way, it's called the virtuous circle. If you can make asset prices go higher, people are very happy. And when they're happy, they borrow and spend, and they carry on, and they have lots of hope, and they make the whole system go. And what needs to happen is this system needs to get bigger. It needs to get slowly bigger. That's why they talk about this 2%, thing or whatever. It's got to get slowly bigger. Not fast bigger, and definitely not smaller, but slowly bigger. And so you need to have this system expanding. And it can't expand if rates are too high on the front end. And that's what the current push is, to normalize the yield curve, to have the yield curve running from low at the front to high at the back in a normal, quote unquote, normal fashion. Normal being a word that doesn't mean exactly what it used to mean, but don't worry about that. And so that's what they're going for. And so when they do that, we have 3 stocks that we think will benefit, which are already moving in advance. But the point is that you're going to incentivize regular lending is what they want to do because they want the system to slowly expand. Now,
who's the three stocks, EB? I got to ask, who's those three stocks?
Yeah, it's unfair to the subscribers. I mean, you can read the Tucker letter for free, but you can understand how we're not going to really, the actionable stuff, we're going to leave off that. But you should read for free if you're in a budget constrained situation, which is funny to me because most of these people that are budget constrained also want like secret code stock symbols to make 10,000% gains. I don't know which one is it, people, So they say we'll be responsible once we have the money later, but it doesn't work that way. You treat money properly, you get more money. You treat money irresponsibly, you lose money. It's as simple as that. But let me just say this. Try to see that the Fed in its current iteration someday will succumb to this like end the Fed type thing, and they'll pile onto it and say, oh, it's just a big crisis, and we're going to have this new supervisory group come in, Fed 2.0, give it a different name or something like that. And that will incorporate stable coins, all these different things. What cracks me up is people want to make money on stable coins. I'm like, everything is about making money. It's crazy to me. I'm like, how are you going to make money on a stable coin? I mean, it's like, maybe you can do it. I don't even want to get into that. But I'm just saying.
Wait. Go back to the stablecoin for a second because I mean, you recently warned that the Fed's replacement could be worse and it would involve stablecoins, right? But with this new Genius Act now regulating private stablecoins, is the end game a public-private partnership where the Fed gets the control it craves through the Fedcoin, but it's actually sanctioned back-issued stablecoins that are traceable?
Totally, absolutely. And if you think about it, people are embracing liquidity in the form of this new type of money. I mean, I dare you to go down to the bank and try to wire money. I mean, it's like it's so hard. I mean, obviously, like with the private client stuff and everything, but still, they ask you the dumbest questions. Like they make it out like you've done something really awful and you've really got to prove that you haven't or something. Then they're like, well, maybe someone's scamming you. Believe me, no one's scamming me. I'm trying to send money to this company or whatever that I own. Okay, so my point is that people are click to send stable coins. They're happy with that. Like the modern era, people are like happy to move in and out of all these stable coins. And you can easily see how when it comes to managing the flow of liquidity, that the Fed is becoming a dinosaur and that some new Fed would have the opportunity to incorporate all of these new types of money movements, which people are really keen on these things. I mean, just so I'm sure you have friends that are like really happy about. They feel very smart doing this, and it's fine. I mean, it's like it's another one of those things where it's like it is what it is. I mean, what do you expect? Like systems, nothing is permanent, and systems come in and they do something for a while, and then maniacal people fight for control of them, and they clobber each other trying to benefit from these things, and then there's problems, then takeovers, then new systems, and this is called a life. I mean, it's the equivalent of like what happens in nature. I mean, it's such a normal thing, and everybody in the U.S. is like they look at it like it's bolted down and static and linear, and it's just not. And I think that's why they have so much trouble in the markets, is because they crave certainty, and there is no certainty. Like it's just there's not any sort of certainty in the whole cosmos. And the faster you understand that, the faster you're going to have more fun, and you're going to enjoy yourself more, and you're probably going to be more successful. And I know it's scary, but believe me, it's not going to be scary. You're going to be scared to go back to the old way of thinking. That's what's going to happen.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, your thesis, right, is about protecting wealth from a predatory system. But is there a point where winning the war means more than just owning the right assets? Does it require a move towards, a parallel economy, using assets like gold or private crypto, not as investments, but as true peer-to-peer money completely outside the system? What are your thoughts?
Probably, but the issue is that the war right now is for your mind, and that's what people don't understand. And so the number one trick that people need to work on now is seeing things for what they are, because that's how you win. That's how you get on top of this, and you make sure you're going to come out on top. It's your mind. It's your mind that you have to work on. And people just can't do it. They're like, no, I need the ticker symbol in an election or something. It's irrelevant. Both those things are irrelevant. Like, there's always another chance to grow. There's always another chance to make money. There's always another chance to come out on top, but not if you're stuck in bad thinking. I know it's hard for people. I really do, but ebtucker.com will help you. But the thing is that we'll help you help yourself, because you're going to see that this is not that hard to figure out. Like all year, we've been having great success in the market, and telling people it's not that hard to figure out what's going on. It's just not that hard. I mean, you can really see this for what it is. It's a show. You're watching a show. So, grab the popcorn.
The best show. The best show, man.
It's such a good show, believe me.
I meant ours.
This is my favorite.
Hey, before I let you go, I mean, you've also made that stark prediction about a blackout shock crisis, right? A time when our devices kind of go dark nationwide, would be used to justify these stricter controls. I mean, if this all seems to point towards a system of what you call full control, full digital, total eyes on 365, in this new world of, regulated stablecoins that you talk about, increasing surveillance, what happens to the concept of analog wealth, like the physical ounces of gold? I mean, does it become a relic, or is this more essential than ever?
I think it might be something that you got to be prepared to own for quite some time. And some people might say it's not worth it. I mean, I'm one that thinks to myself, would you have held gold from 1935 to 1974? Maybe. I mean, obviously it would have been wise, 30 years roughly. I mean, you could have also found other things to do. I mean, so I think that might be the choice that people need to make as well. But I do think that you'll wake up one day and your phone will be black, and you'll have to ask yourself, am I willing to give up my personal sovereignty to turn it back on? And I think you need to be realistic that almost everyone will say yes. Okay. And you'll have .safe websites that are government approved, and the Department of Safe, online activity. And that if you see now, it's like there's hackers everywhere. There's bank fraud. There's scammers. I mean, I mailed someone a check, and someone intercepted the check in their mailbox and printed more checks and wrote these checks. And it's not that big of a deal. Like, I mean, you just have to go down to the bank and fill out all these forms. But the point is that the guy at the bank was telling me it's just like there's like filing cabinets full of these things. It's constant. And so that's good if you want to exert this control, because you need to create instability and fear to have people give up their freedom. And people are just really, really willing to give up their freedom fast in America. I mean, like, they talk about freedom, but what happens is that at every single turn, it's pretty easy to shake it right out of their hands. Yeah. And I don't think there's a lot you can do about that.
Well, let's bring it home, man. I mean, you've again, there's that picture of that system based on control, surveillance, a managed narrative. And we talked about it. But for an individual watching this show, Kitco News subscriber, I mean, what's more important for their survival in the next decade? Is it
living?
But is it growing their capital, or defending their sovereignty?
Balanced living. You've got to live a lifestyle that you personally enjoy. That's the trick. You can't live a lifestyle that you think later you'll enjoy. You can't live someone else's lifestyle. You can't do a job that you don't like for money you're afraid to spend. Balanced living. You have to manage money like it's a lot of money, even when it's not. People are all the time shocked that, 25 years ago, when I was like working and construction, all these weird things, it wasn't like, oh, I had to work so hard. What I'm saying is that I was saving. I was like really focused on living a life that I wanted to live, which was like a life where I was intellectually free. And I needed to free myself from the need to work every day to do that. And it took a long time to do that. And it might take a short time, it might take a long time. But the one thing that I learned is you have to treat money with the respect that you'll get more money. So you try to make decisions to create the life that you want. And personally, I didn't want to have a bunch of things that forced me to do things that I didn't like. So I made choices accordingly. If you're watching this, the way this translates into your life is stop looking for these bizarre ways to win the lottery in the stock market. It's probably not going to happen. Plus, most lottery winners end up in horrible life situations. And you don't want to do that. It's not enviable to have that outcome. You already have a great life if you have time to watch this video. You can make money. You can enjoy yourself. You can do things that are fun. You can get on top of the markets. You can stay on top of the markets. And it just gets better and better and better. But the trick is balanced living. You live your life, you invest your money, you spend time learning, you do things that you enjoy, and you watch this thing get bigger and bigger and bigger. My second book, Not for Sale, is the better book of the two that I've written. And people all the time, they don't understand this, but it's all about your personal wiring. And you absolutely can work on your personal wiring. It takes almost no time to do it. And you'll be shocked that you waited so long to do it. And when you do it, you're going to see that you're going to do more things you like. You're going to be around people that you enjoy. You're not going to have time for people you don't enjoy. You're going to get rid of people that are negative, that blame everyone for all their troubles, that are looking for hope and all these secrets, and then angry and resentful at people, and they talk about themselves in a bad way. Get away from these people. What I'm saying
what's your
is
longest
that,
what's your longest position this year? I mean, if you're looking at this kind of going into it, we don't know when this reset's happening. Obviously, we still want to take a profit from the S&P.
I bet you my portfolio turns over about 25% of it per year. Like meaning I bet you if you take the whole of my portfolio, it averages turns all the way over every 4 years.
But miners, are you looking at those classics anymore? You're kind of out of the miners.
I would say 20, maybe just under 20%, not that much miners. It's not like I'm shocked they haven't done better. And so I'm not going to own more of them because they haven't performed. I mean, the fact is that gold has done better than some of the bigger miners. And I mean, they've done fine. But what I'm saying is that if you ask these miners 8 years ago, what would $3,600 gold, $3,700 gold do to your business? They would have said it would have gone totally bananas. And it hasn't gone bananas. I mean, to be up 100% is sort of a big foul. I mean, you could have gotten half that in gold in the same period of time. This is really crazy. I mean, it's so you got to look at the chart. I mean, it's don't just listen to the person, look at the chart,
But do you still into streamers? Do you still you like the streamers that side?
I mean, I don't think they've performed. I mean, I think people have a hard time with what's my role? I mean, I liked royalty companies last decade. I bought a lot, actually way too much of one royalty company, went on the board, and I resigned from that board. And I think people have a really hard time with that because they don't know that. But it's look at the facts. I mean, look at the press releases, no hard feelings. But I mean, I was an investor in that business, and I'm happy that I did that. And we did fine, but I'm pretty long gone from that business. 2023. It's a long time ago. And so if it had been on a track that I liked better, I would have stayed involved, but it wasn't. And that goes for a lot of companies. I mean, you really got to look at these companies and you say, if gold's up this much and your business isn't up more, that's kind of a problem. And so it's not personal. You just need to say, why would you do that? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. And we're here to make money. We're not here to fight ideological wars. We're here to make a profit.
And still stack silver, just like behind you, EB. You got 2,000 ounces behind you. It's pretty heavy.
I personally, I like to keep more than my body weight around at all times. Now, I'm not that heavy of a person, but I mean, even still, I look forward to selling it. So, we'll see what happens.
Okay, $50. I mean, we're getting closer. Listen, we always run out of time, you and I, but hopefully we'll have you on soon. E.B. Tucker, editor of the Tucker Letter, of course. Fascinating, cautionary perspective, as always. Thanks for your time.
Thanks for having me. See you soon.
All right, E.B. We'll see you soon. So there you have it, the disconnect between the euphoric market and a fragile system. What do you think? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. And if you want more in-depth interviews like this one, make sure to hit like on this video and subscribe to the Kitco News channel. All right, you can find more on EB's work over at his Substack. For all of us here at Kitco News, I'm Jeremy Saffron. See you next time.